Hello, I am Janie Buckland with the West Virginia Few Families United for Education, and wrapping up a quite an eventful work week with lots going on. So I wanted to make sure that I was connected with you guys here at the end of this week to talk about some updated information for the Hope Scholarship, and then just a couple other things to maybe have on your radar as we go into the weekend and start to prepare for the holidays. So let's kind of dive in. If you are keeping up with all things Hope Scholarship, if you are a parent, it is getting tricky on how to make sure that you are caught up on anything that is currently the ball maybe in your court, and you're trying to make sure that nobody's waiting on you to do anything, right? And that you have effectively and efficiently put the ball into someone else's court and you're just waiting for them, but also to kind of have an awareness on that. Who are you waiting to hear from? What is the next step? And just trying to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. And we here at the Few want to make sure that we're partnered with not only families, but also with providers in this space to make sure that your family is getting what they need and that providers are supported so that they can meet their learners right where they are. So let's jump in. I just sent out an update. We did it earlier this morning on Facebook, but we typed this up and got it out to our email list. If you've not received this in written form, just put a comment wherever you're viewing this, and we'll go and follow up to make sure that you get this in a written format. So number one, if your child has been awarded the Hope Scholarship, you should have received a survey, completed it, and have an email confirming that it was submitted. So this is if you were awarded the scholarship prior to that injunction or since the injunction. If you have applied and been awarded the scholarship, then you should have a communication saying that you've received that scholarship, that it's been awarded. You just want to make sure that that is documented in some way. So that's number one. If you've been awarded the scholarship, do you have documentation showing that? And especially if you were awarded the scholarship prior to the injunction, you should have received the survey to make sure that they knew what your amount should be when it gets deposited on January 15th, depending on what educational profile your child had here at the beginning of the 2023-24 academic year. So that's if you've been awarded. If your Hope Scholar was in public school, whether it was in person, virtual, or charter, and they are still attending, I realize that many of you have already withdrawn your child and completed the survey, and that will allow them to cross-reference eligibility and attendance with the Department of Education to make sure that your prorated amount that's deposited on January 15th is reflective of that time that your child spent in the public school system. So if your Hope Scholar was in public school and they are still attending, the amazing administrators in the treasurer's office, Adam Shoemake, Amy Willard, have suggested that you consider withdrawing them either on or before that January 15th date, or on or before the end of the first semester, which is hopefully before that January 15th date, so that the prorated amount can be calculated for that disbursement. So if they are still attending, and let's say your county's last day is January 9th. I'm not even looking at a calendar. I don't even know. But let's say it's January 9th. You may want to consider withdrawing them on or before that January 9th date to make sure that that's documented so that the Department of Education can be cross-referenced and the appropriate amount will be awarded. Hopefully that makes sense. Some counties aren't ending until after January 15th. And so if that's the case, you can reach out to me, Jamie, Jamie, at wbfue.org, or leave a comment. We'll get connected to make sure that you are connected to the right people to see you through the rest of the process. Again, is the ball in your court? Is the ball in someone else's court? Do we have an awareness? And we, the few, want to serve as that navigator to help make sure that you're waiting for the right person to get back with you, and that we are not in a situation where a couple weeks go by and you're like, oh, well, we didn't do that. So if your Hope Scholar was being homeschooled or was enrolled in a micro school, we have a couple of those in the state. If they were being homeschooled or they were enrolled in a micro school, you're going to receive the full amount on January 15th. And then you will work with the Hope Program administrators on those reimbursements. And I'm going to talk more about the reimbursements here in just a moment. If your Hope Scholar was enrolled in a non-public school or private school, an exemption B or K school, then they are also going to receive the full amount, $4,298, something like that, dollars. So that will be going in on the 15th. And here's the information that is pertinent to you. If your school has decided to reimburse you already for what you had paid for first semester, okay, they've already reimbursed you, then they're going to charge your Hope Scholarship account for that amount, right? And then for the balance that would be due for next year. So maybe that's already taken place. If they have not reimbursed you, then you need to make sure you have the appropriate documentation to demonstrate what you have spent from the time period of August 15th to January 15th to submit that to the program administrators for reimbursement. All right. They're going to be working with you to make sure that that gets reimbursed. And so if they have already refunded you, they're now going to charge your account. If they've not refunded you, you're going to provide documentation to be reimbursed. And we'll have more details on that forthcoming. I know they're working so hard in the treasurer's office to keep up with the demand and get those applications submitted. They are absolutely staying on top of things. Okay. So you just need to keep your documentation. Here's the other thing though. If your school is having issues enrolling students, you need to make sure they're connected to us so that we can make sure they're connected to the right people to get their issue resolved. Some schools have already successfully enrolled students, and those account holders, the parents or grandparents or guardians, are receiving communications from Emma, the education market assistant, from the portal. They're receiving communications to approve that connection, that link, so that the schools can start charging those accounts on January 15th. So if that's not happening, if you're a provider and you're in the school bucket, remember there are 3 buckets: vendors for products, providers for services, and schools that fall under exemption B or K, or a non-public school, possibly in another state. So depending on where you fall in that, we want to make sure that you're supported in serving the learners. And again, some of those communications are already going out to families. Reimbursement. You want to make sure that you gather all of your documentation for educational expenses from August 15th through January 15th to provide when they're ready to begin processing. We've been told by the administrators of the program that they will be reviewing all of those submissions, even the ones that come from vendors or providers that weren't qualified as a Hope provider prior to the injunction. Because keep in mind, there were only so many who were even able to get on the portal because the injunction was granted on July 6th, and the portal hadn't opened until the end of July for all providers, and at like the beginning of May or June for schools. So not everyone was to a point within the portal to be designated as a provider to have accepted the terms and agreements on that so that they could be considered approved. Also, just to clarify that, once a provider accepts the terms and agreements of inside the portal, that signs them up as a Hope Scholarship provider, because the way the code was written, there isn't actually a qualification or an approval process necessarily that these providers are having to go through. So basically, once they accept the terms and conditions of that contractual agreement inside the portal, they are registered to take Hope Dollars. We do not have a list of who all has successfully done that. We're waiting on that to come out from Step Up. Again, you're either a vendor with product, you're a service provider offering services, or you're a school. If you need help with that, reach out and make sure we get you connected to the right people. So, for reimbursements for you parents who are interested in being reimbursed for educational expenses, let's say you've already bought a Becca curriculum or you've been paying a tutor for the last couple of months since August 15th. You need to have your documentation prepared to submit that so that you can be directly reimbursed from your ESA. You're not going to receive a debit card. You're not going to receive cash funds. All of the purchases for the Hope Scholarship Program are required to take place inside of that portal. This is an exceptional circumstance because of the injunction, and the Amazing Hope Board acted very quickly in making sure that they got rules approved and submitted emergency rules to address the situation and to make sure families were whole for those out-of-pocket expenses this past semester when we were affected by the injunction. All right, if you have submitted the request to apply, this would be for families who did not get to submit an actual application prior to the injunction, or they have become eligible since the dissolution of the injunction. Okay, and you are submitting a request to apply, which can be found on the Hope Scholarship WV.com website. If you've submitted that request to apply and you haven't heard anything at all, reach out to our team, Jamie at WVFUE.org, comment below. We're doing our best to make sure that nothing is falling through the cracks. So just making sure you're connected to the right person if you have submitted that request to apply. If your child has earned eligibility by completing 45 calendar days, consecutive calendar days in public school, you should have submitted the application request form. Okay, you should have already done that. If you've done that and you've not heard anything, you're reaching out to us. If you got the approval to apply, so you submitted that and then you did get an approval on that, then hopefully you've already submitted your application. You should be logging into the portal and looking on the dashboard. Your application should either say that it's been submitted, or that it's been approved or awarded, or that it's on hold. And if it's on hold, you should be checking that every day. If you go a couple days and you don't hear anything back, reach out to us. You can also check the notifications within the portal, and it should tell you why it's been placed on hold. We just want to be helpful in this space. We're hearing from many of you that you've called Step Up or that you've emailed Step Up and you're still confused on the process. We want to make sure that it's clear. We are not acting on behalf of the Treasurer's Office. We aren't acting on behalf of Step Up for Students. The West Virginia FEW Families United for Education is a nonprofit organized in the state of West Virginia with our 501c3 tax exempt status. We're just doing the work. We just want to make sure that families understand what's expected of them, providers understand what's expected of them, and work in the communications of that to make sure that everybody gets what they need from the program. So if you're having issues, our role is to come alongside you and again, make sure you understand either the ball is in your court or it's not. And when it's not, who are you waiting on to get back with you? And when should you expect that? And when should you be concerned if it doesn't happen? So we just want to be a part of that process to make sure that families are supported and providers are as well. Hopefully that covered the majority of you. Many of you are looking to enroll in school in order to earn eligibility. So maybe your child is like my 11-year-old, currently homeschooled, or maybe your child is currently exempt from compulsory attendance because they're enrolled in exemption B or K private school in the state of West Virginia. And you would like to consider enrolling them into public school in order to earn eligibility. We have an intake form that you can find on these communications, and one of us will link in the comments here, or you can email us. We are happy to assist you in navigating enrollment. Are you going to enroll in WVVA with my friend Doug Cipoletti, West Virginia Virtual Academy, powered by Stride? Are you going to enroll in your county virtual program? Or do you need custodial care, and so you're looking to enroll in an in-person school? Navigating that can be difficult, and we want to make sure that we're in your corner and making sure you have all the information that you need to figure out what the best option is for your student in order to earn eligibility, and also that you understand what's going to be required of you, that the student is going to need to be enrolled and attending for 45 consecutive calendar days, and then they're going to need to remain enrolled until they are awarded the scholarship before they would be able to be withdrawn from the school system. I'm not going to take a deep dive into submitting a notice of intent because I'm already at where I wanted to be as far as timing is concerned here. So I don't want to take, I'm at 15 minutes already. So I don't want to take a bunch of time going into a notice of intent. If you have questions specific to that, reach out. Hopefully this was a good recap on where you are and where you could possibly be. Keep in mind, if your child was eligible for the Hope Scholarship prior to the injunction and you did not complete an application or submit a request for an application, okay, that did not happen, then your child will be eligible to apply for the 23-24 academic year on March 1st. But they are not eligible to apply right now. Those who are becoming eligible are able to apply once they've earned their eligibility, once they've hit those 45 days. They are eligible to apply for the remainder of the 2022-23 academic year. It is clear as mud, and we're here to help. You guys have a great afternoon. Have a great weekend. Let us know what questions you have. We are available to you, email, message, messenger, phone calls. We're scheduling phone calls next week if you need to get on the phone to better understand. So you guys have a great Friday evening, a great weekend. We'll be back next week with more information. And we just appreciate you being here. We're part of this work in transforming K-12 education in the Mountain State, and we're loving it. You guys have a great weekend.